Hey everybody, I'm Aaron Simmons. This is Philosophy for Where We Find Ourselves, January 15th, 2023. Thank you so much for joining me today on this Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And as a way of trying to celebrate his life and legacy, I just posted a new Substack, Music Mondays, a special edition devoted to hip hop and social protest. So if you have not yet subscribed to my Substack, go on over there. There'll be a link in the description. And this special edition of the Music Mondays has an analysis of Rhapsody, of Flowbots, and also a link to a playlist of over 30 songs that I've put together to help you get a kind of hip-hop soundtrack for the social justice into which Martin Luther King's life calls us. So I hope you'll enjoy that. And today here on YouTube, what I want to do is talk about one of what I take to be the most important lessons we can learn from the life of Martin Luther King. And that is to prioritize and emphasize in our own lives the importance of input, of investment over the relevance of outcomes. Now, why this matters is because too often we get locked in a kind of success mindset, where something is only worth it, it's only worthwhile, it's only valuable if it leads to particular outcomes that we can kind of, check the boxes of and then brag about and receive the applause from others. That's not bad, right? There's nothing wrong with actually bringing about the kinds of world that we wish were the case. In fact, for King, he certainly does desire for the real practical outcomes of racial justice, of economic justice, etc. But it's important that we not think those outcomes are what dictate the value of our effort. And what I mean by this is we must find ways, as I argue in my new book, Camping with Kierkegaard, we've got to find ways to prioritize faithfulness over success. Faithfulness here is not a religious idea. It's simply the notion that risk with direction defines our existence in a way that makes our actions worthy of our finitude, regardless what comes of it. We do the best we can to bring about the world we hope to see, but whether or not that world arises, we did what was necessary in light of what we took to be the good. We lived a life committed, invested, instead of just thinking our life mattered because that our life happened to bring about a particular sort of result. So maybe today we can reposition ourselves towards investment. What are you doing that matters because it matters? It defines the person you hope to become. Instead of, does what you're doing necessitate a particular outcome in order to be valuable? I think that kind of life is inevitably going to lead to being defined by success and then also wrecked by failure. Maybe we can find ways to still care about success, but as a logistic, instead of the origin and the source of meaning. Well, as a way of trying to frame this philosophical idea in the words of Martin Luther King, I want to share with you the end of one of his very famous essays, The Drum Major Instinct. And in here, he articulates beautifully exactly this philosophical principle that we must find ways existentially to live into rather than just receive meaning because of the outcome. Let's listen to Dr. King. If any of you are around when I have to meet my day, I don't want a long funeral. And if you get somebody to deliver the eulogy, tell them not to talk too long. Every now and then I wonder what I want them to say. Tell them not to mention that I have a Nobel Peace Prize. That isn't important. Tell them not to mention that I have 300 or 400 other awards. That's not important. Tell him not to mention where I went to school. I'd like somebody to mention that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to give his life serving others. I'd like for somebody to say that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to love somebody. I want you to say that day that I tried to be right on the war question. I want you to be able to say that day that I did try to feed the hungry. And I want you to be able to say that day that I did try in my life to clothe those who were naked. I want you to say on that day that I did try in my life to visit those who were in prison. I want you to say that day that I tried to love and serve humanity. Yes, if you want to say that I was a drum major, say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. I was a drum major for righteousness, and all of the other shallow things will not matter. I won't have any money to leave behind. I won't have the fine and luxurious things of life to leave behind, but I just want to leave a committed life behind. That is so powerful today in a world where we tend to think that only if you accomplish, only if you achieve, only if you stack the cash and get the riches, that your life was significant and meaningful. Only if you're invited back to give the graduation commencement address and name a wing of your university after you, did your life really matter? King says, nah, what is it that you cared about? What is it you loved? And did that define you in a way that threw you into a relation with others? Edith Wyschogrod, a wonderful postmodern philosopher of religion, has this idea called a postmodern saint. And she says the postmodern saint is someone who devotes their entire adult life to helping and serving others, to making the world better for the least of these, for the marginalized, for the widow, the orphan, the stranger, the naked, the poor. And she says that part of what makes this a postmodern saint is the awareness that they can never do this resting affirm in guarantees of success. They do it instead in light of the ambiguity that they may have chosen wrongly. But that commitment in the face of risk, that's what faithfulness involves. So today, may we strive to be postmodern saints of the sort that Wyschogrod recommends and live lives committed to justice, to investment in others, to the kind of moral vision of the beloved community that King calls us toward. Hopefully, we are successful, but the success does not determine the value of our investment. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day to you all. I'll see you next time, unless a piano falls on our heads.